I'm about to get married, but my boyfriend suddenly told me he has a 5-year-old sister. Because of the big age gap, I suspected she was actually his daughter. I secretly did a DNA test for the two of them, and the result showed I was overthinking it. That night, I cried as I apologized to my boyfriend, but after I finished, my boyfriend looked utterly shocked, his hand holding the test results trembling. Around the new year, my boyfriend Zhou Liang took me to meet his parents. On the way there, I was searching for videos about meeting the parents when Zhou Liang, sitting beside me, casually mentioned something.
I have a 5-year-old sister.
I was startled. I don't think you've ever mentioned that to me before. Zhou Liang looked completely calm, even stroking his chin with a puzzled expression.
I forgot to tell you since she's always been in kindergarten.
But I didn't believe his excuse at all. He's a very filial person. He checks in on his parents all the time. Sometimes I'm right next to him when he calls them, but I've never heard a child's voice in the background. Unless over the past 2 years they've deliberately tried to keep it from me. Besides, with such a big age gap, is that even possible? How come there's such a big difference in your ages? Was your aunt really that old when she had another child? Zhou Liang immediately showed a helpless expression.
Once I started working, my parents were lonely. When I found out, the baby was already born.
Seeing that he also looked completely helpless, I couldn't bring myself to lose my temper at him, but this was such a huge shock and there were so many suspicious points. I turned my head to look out the window, and a bold guess exploded in my mind. So bold, I didn't dare think about it in detail. Could this younger sister actually be hers? When we arrived at her house, her parents were standing at the door smiling at us. I had no choice but to put away my bad mood, put on a smile, and hand them the gifts I had brought. Her family is scholarly, and both her parents are cultured and refined people. I greeted the two elders, but my attention was more focused on her mother. I really couldn't imagine that the gentle and graceful woman in front of me, she had a second child at nearly 50. Suddenly, a small girl dashed out and hugged me. "My big sister, my future sister-in-law is so pretty," she cried. Mrs. Zhou, embarrassed, pulled her back. This was clearly Zhou Liangna's 5-year-old sister. The girl eagerly led me inside, complimenting me constantly. She clearly liked me. She wouldn't let me go, saying she missed her sister. "No, sister-in-law, you should hurry and marry my brother." Spending time together, I realized she was unlike other kids. Though I'm not fond of children, she was too well behaved, almost trying to win me over. She'd pour me water and sit quietly during meals. Clean and obedient, she'd look at me with big eyes, acting cute. After dinner, the Zhous asked when Zhou Liang and I would marry. I felt it was a mood killer, but answered honestly, "Uncle, Auntie, I don't plan on having children." Surprisingly, they agreed, nodding and smiling instantly. It felt unreal, a family like theirs, having a second child so late, yet accepting I don't want any. Leaving their house, Zhou Liang checked how I was feeling.
My parents didn't expect kids. I told them long ago, and they were fine. Also, isn't my sister cute? Don't be upset. I didn't mean to hide it.
I smiled and nodded, realizing how unreasonable my previous thoughts had been. After a while, Zhou Liang, whether joking or serious,
said, "At your age, you could totally just..."
After Zhou Ning was raised as a daughter, her little sister kept in touch. She sent voice messages calling me sister and shared kindergarten drawings for me and Zhou Liang. I praised her art, and she immediately video called to share school stories. "Sister, do you like me?" she asked. I replied, "I do." When she heard my answer, she lowered her head, a sly smile appearing at the corners of her mouth, and her eyes didn't seem as innocent as before. The next second, noticing that I was looking at her, she immediately put on her usual playful grin. Sister, I'm so happy. I like you too, sister." Listening to her sweet words, I inexplicably felt a bit uncomfortable, but it was just that one time. After that, she continued to act close and affectionate with me, speaking in her childish voice about her little troubles. She would always urge me to marry Zhou Liang, saying that way she could see me every day. Seeing all of this, I said,
"Ning is so cute, right? You're not mad I didn't tell you, are you?"
I shook my head, smiling. Zhou Liang asked, "Would you ever want your own child?"
I was completely and utterly stunned.
I shook my head. "No, I won't. I see Zhou Ning as a sister, not my own child. I don't want kids. Raising them is too much work and I'd lose too much." Zhou Liang just squeezed my hand reassuringly.
"Then let's not. If you ever want to, just look at Xiaoning instead."
As I fell into her arms, her smile widened and her eyes turned thoughtful.
"And I really do love you. Let's get married soon."
My anxiety grew as my engagement to Zhou Liang approached. Our families approved, and I couldn't refuse his mother's frequent invitations. Seeing how well Zhou Ning and I got along, she looked at me with satisfaction. The more she saw, she always seemed to be evaluating a product with strange enthusiasm. Once, while with Zhou Ning, Zhou Liang called his mother over. I made an excuse to follow them. Nearby, they discussed engagement details. I was leaving when I heard my name. Zhou's mother said coldly, "She's all right, better than the last one." I felt sad, but figured in-laws rarely get along and let it go. Zhou Liang continued, She isn't
smart, so she won't notice."
It felt like they were hiding something from me. I didn't even know how I got back until Zhou Ning pulled me back to reality. "Sis, why were you gone so long?" she asked. "Did your stomach hurt? You didn't go to the bathroom. I saw you come out from the other side." I replied, "I just wanted some fresh air, so I took a walk." Zhou Ning didn't say anything after that. After a while, she said she was tired and wanted to take a nap. Once I saw she was asleep, I secretly cut a few strands of her hair with scissors. My hands were shaking from nerves. I watched Zhou Ning's tightly closed eyes, relieved that she showed no sign of waking up. But just as I got the hair in my hand, just as I was still holding the scissors, Zhou Ning, who had been sound asleep a moment ago, suddenly opened her eyes. She didn't look the least bit sleepy and stared straight at me, her voice unusually cold. "Sister, what are you doing with that? Why are you cutting my hair?" "Xiaoning, I saw your hair was tangled, so I was just trimming it for you." Even a 5-year-old wouldn't believe such an excuse. Zhou Ning put away her innocence and looked at me suspiciously. "I'm going to tell brother about this." My heart sank. Taking her hair was just to verify the explosive suspicion in my mind. I absolutely couldn't let Zhou Liang know about this idea that was almost impossible to believe. Kids don't understand what taking hair is for. Adults would definitely know what I was up to, so I tried my best to coax this 5-year-old girl. Xiaoning, your sister was wrong. I just really like your hair and wanted to secretly cut some to keep as a memento. A thought struck me, so I brought up what he cared about most. If you tell your brother, he'll be very angry and won't marry your sister anymore. Xiaoning, do you want to see your sister unable to marry your brother? As expected, Zhou Ning became anxious. She seemed to have an unusual obsession with this and even shouted out of character, "You can't not get married. You have to marry my brother. I'll give you my hair." I quickly nodded to reassure her and went along with her words. "Yes, I'll marry your brother. We will definitely get married." Watching Zhou Ning gradually return to normal from her previous state, I lowered my head to hide the look in my eyes and clenched the hair in my pocket tightly. That afternoon, I found an excuse to hurriedly leave the Zhou family, taking the hair of Zhou Liang and Zhou Ning to get a DNA test. On the way back, Zhou Liang called me and asked where I was. Because I was nervous, my answer was vague. On the phone. Halfway through, Zhou Liang hesitantly asked,
Xiaosheng, did you eavesdrop outside my mom's door today?
"What?" I played dumb. If you overheard Xiaoning and me and it sounded bad, I was just humoring my mom. I pretended to be angry. "Wait, were you talking behind my back today?" Zhou Liang laughed, relaxed now.
Gotta go. Talk later.
Lately, I haven't visited the Zhou family and turned down their invitations. I must seem unusual to them, but I'm focused on the DNA results. My feelings are complicated. I wonder if I'm being too harsh, but Zhou Ning's incident, Zhou Liang's urging, and the parents' overly eager attitude toward me, it all feels wrong. 3 days later, the results arrived. Nervous, I waited until I got home to open them. With trembling hands, I read, "Paternity excluded. Zhou Ning isn't Zhou Liang's child." I felt a wave of relief, realizing how ridiculous I'd been. Of course not. I've seen too many soaps. As I grinned, an urgent knock came. Zhou Liang's voice sounded anxious. "Song Zhang, I need to ask you something."
The other day, what did you do to Yang Xiaoning's hair? Tell me yourself and open the door.
When I checked my phone, I saw several missed calls from Zhou Liang. I hastily shoved the test report under the bed and nervously opened the door. Zhou Liang immediately barged in and started yelling at me.
You don't actually suspect that Xiaoning is my daughter, do you? We've been together for 2 years. You know what kind of person I am. I would never do something like that. What on earth are you thinking?
Actually, if you listened closely, there was a hint of panic mixed in with his anger, as if he was afraid something would be discovered. But because I was feeling guilty, I didn't notice anything unusual. I knew I was in the wrong, so I took a deep breath and tried to cover it up, saying, "Sorry, I was just overthinking. I lost Xiaoning's hair afterward."
Hair?
I really lost it. I never mentioned anything about DNA again. I really lost it. I was just joking around. I'd never seen Zhou Liang so angry before. It made me feel a bit uncomfortable and unfamiliar, but this was my fault, and he caught me again. I sighed inwardly, thinking Zhou Liang probably wouldn't forgive me so easily. But after hearing what I said, the anger on Zhou Liang's face gradually faded, and he even seemed a bit relieved. Seeing how startled I was, he comforted me gently and softly.
I just lost my temper. Xiao Xiao, I'll show you my family registry. Now you believe me? Xiaoning is really...
My younger sister. She saw the DNA test report.
This?
I didn't have time to stop her and watched as she picked up the test report. In that instant, my eyes filled with tears. I was almost about to cry. I do charity every year. Why does fate have to treat me like this? I clearly hid it under the bed. Now that things have come to this, I apologized hoarsely. I know now that you and Xiaoning are not father and daughter. It's all my fault. I must have lost my mind. I don't even know what I was doing. I kept my head down and explained for a long time, but I still didn't hear a response. Feeling both puzzled and nervous, I looked up and saw that he was trembling all over, violently crumpling the test report in his hands. He stared at the paper as if he wanted to burn a hole through it. Seeing his reaction, my heart skipped a beat. Even though it was my fault, was it really necessary for him to be this angry? Isn't this reaction a bit too much? After a long while, he finally looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot, his voice hoarse as he said,
Wow, when did you do the test?
"Didn't you?"
Throw away Zhou Ning's hair? Where did you get it again? How can you be sure the hair was from me and her?
She stared fixedly at the report, her face pale, her lips bitten so hard they were bleeding, as if muttering to herself.
Not mine. How could she not be mine?
It was as if the sky had collapsed for Gu. His emotions were completely out of control. A total stranger compared to his usual gentle and refined self. I honestly wouldn't have doubted it if he hit me the next second. As I scrolled through my phone, I edged toward the door, warily saying, "Zhou Liang, don't get worked up. Calm down. Let's talk this through. I'll apologize to you, but if you lay a hand on me, it's over between us, and I'll call the police." I didn't understand. The DNA test clearly proved they weren't father and daughter, so why was he falling apart like this? If everything he said was true, he should have felt relieved. Why did he act like his world was ending? And when he said, "How could she not be mine?" it sent a chill down my spine. Suddenly I felt... His reaction didn't seem like it was caused by a misunderstanding. It was more like he had always believed that was his child, or he was certain Zhou Ning should be his child. I gripped my phone tightly and braced myself to probe further. "Zhou Liang, what do you mean by this?" He suddenly looked up, his gaze complicated as he stared at me. His lips parted slightly as if he wanted to say something, but then he swallowed the words. It was that moment of hesitation that made my mind explode with realization. I understood. "So you always thought he was your child?" Zhou Liang jerked his head up as if he'd been stabbed, but when he saw me, his expression quickly turned cold, and then he forced a very unnatural smile. "Zhao Zhao, don't let your imagination run wild. Whether I'm imagining things or not, you know best yourself." I took a deep breath and forced myself to stay calm. "She isn't your sister, she's your daughter, but you two aren't related by blood." Zhou Liang's face suddenly turned pale. His mouth opened and closed, but in the end, he didn't say a word. He picked up the shattered pieces of the test report, shoved me aside forcefully, and I ran out. It hurt, but I laughed as Zhou Liang left. His scheme backfired. My best friend took me in immediately. "Stay here. What if she attacks you at home?" She stomped her feet. "She was just setting a trap so you'd raise her daughter." I smiled bitterly. She lied about not wanting kids just to manipulate me. Now that I'm marrying, she wants me to raise Zhou Ning. My friend hugged me tight. It's fine. Karma hits eventually. He was cheated on unknowingly and raised another's child for 5 years. I'll use my connections to check his past. I'll uncover the truth and help you get even. My best friend found his classmates online and dug up his history. There was no talk of pregnancy, but Joe Liang dated 2 girls at once, including his school girlfriend. He also had a girlfriend back home, and when that was discovered, well, the girlfriend back home was actually his first love, and they never broke up throughout college. I stayed at my best friend's place for a few days. One day we were both on our phones when she suddenly slapped the table and exclaimed, "Oh my god, look at this." On her phone was a video, shot at night and very blurry, but I could still recognize the main character from his build and the vague profile. It was Joe Liang getting kicked. Drunk and stumbling, he attacked a woman in white on the street. In the video you hear her screams. My friend said she was Joe Liang's first love. He'd stalked and assaulted her. The incident went viral. Now married to a wealthy man, she's pressing charges. The bigger the scandal, the harsher his sentence. My friend said fiercely, the harsher, the better. Suddenly, an unknown number called. It was Joe Liang's mother. She used a new number since I'd blocked them. On the phone, her voice sounded as if she had aged more than 10 years, trembling with emotion. "Jojo, can we meet, please?" "Let's not, Auntie. Joe Liang and I are already over." Joe Liang's mother immediately burst into tears. "Joe Liang has been arrested. He's been taken away." Just as I was about to refuse, my best friend excitedly squeezed my hand and whispered, "Say yes, I want to give their whole family a piece of my mind." When I met Joe Liang's mother, I noticed she had a lot more grey hair. As soon as we met, she said, "It's all my fault. I insisted on keeping the child. Who could have known that woman would seduce my son? My son was right to hit her. What's wrong with that?" Zhou Ning was Joe Liang's first love. She had a child while underage, and her family was poor. Due to his mother meddling, she abandoned the child and left. Zhou Liang never got over her, but now it turns out the child isn't even related to them. Ridiculously, they illegally registered the child as his younger sister. Hearing this, I felt nothing. I just want to stay away from the Zhous. More concerningly, his first love was hospitalized, and her husband hired lawyers to imprison Zhou Liang. His father is now busy suppressing searches and begging for legal help. At noon, wiping away his tears, he came to ask about the child, blaming my lawyer and asking me to help them think of a solution. I was speechless to the extreme and couldn't help but laugh, mocking him. "I do know some people, but why should I help you?" At noon, he looked at me as if I were an ingrate and shouted hoarsely, "But my son has treated you so well these past 2 years. Don't you owe him? Can't you just take good care of my son? Where do you get all these ideas?" My best friend stepped forward and scolded him. "Weren't you just pushing Song Zhao into the fire pit? Have some shame." "Liar, stop your pathetic lies and meal ticket. You deserve being cheated on and raising another's child." Furious, Mrs. Zhou slumped against the door, nearly fainting. She angrily shoved away the child, trying to help, shouting, "Get lost!" Zhong Ning, wrapped in a blanket, hit the ground, head bleeding profusely. No one felt sorry for him. In Mrs. Zhou's eyes, he was already an enemy. With blood streaming down his head, he screamed at me, cursing, "It's all your fault. Why did you make my brother abandon me? I'm his daughter, his real daughter. I don't want you to be my sister-in-law. I don't want you to raise me. Get out of my house." Looking at her, the last bit of guilt I felt disappeared. That sweet little girl, just like Zhou Liang, was only pretending. Zhou Ning was never some innocent little girl. She was very clever. So clever it was frightening. As for her foul language, that was probably influenced by Mrs. Zhou. Although there was no blood relation, Zhou Liang and Zhou Ning's true personalities were really like father and daughter. I looked at her calmly and said indifferently, "Xiao Ning, your misfortune wasn't caused by me. In fact, I almost got tricked by your family too. I never said I would raise you. Your family is just too shameless." I don't know if she understood, but she stopped talking and just glared at me viciously. My best friend pulled me away. She cursed them out with satisfaction, but more than venting, she was worried the Zhou family would keep pestering me. Let's go, don't bother with them." The Zhous went mad. After this, I cut all contact for good. My friend helped me move. I changed my number and cut all ties. Zhou Liang's trial came soon, and my friend took me to the hearing. I saw him broken and defeated. On the stand, his eyes were lifeless, but seeing me, a spark of hope appeared. His parents clearly hadn't told him the truth. His look was ridiculous, so I smiled. My friend scoffed. "He can't think you're here for him, right?" I regretted not speaking my mind, but my friend said I could visit him in prison to do it then. The trial was brief. With conclusive evidence, Zhou Liang and his accomplice were convicted. Her husband's injury assessment and the legal team's efforts got Zhou Liang 3 years. His mother fainted and was carried out. In the visitation room, Zhou Liang sat on a cramped seat. He watched me as Yang Qilian smiled and spoke anxiously.
"Zhang Zhao, I have no other kids. That boy isn't mine."
I realized this was his reply to the last thing I said. I mocked, "How tragic, raising someone else's child." Zhou Liang's gaze flickered with realization. I wasn't there for pity, but for mockery. He raised his neck, speechless with rage.
"How can you treat me like this after all I did?"
I laughed. "Good, you had a daughter. Why hide it? You told me not to have kids just to care for Zhou Ning. What now? Just live, make money, and if I meet the right person, I'll marry. If not, fine." My friend nodded and clinked my glass, wishing me peace. I sipped, watching the waves. The gloom was gone. The Zhou story ended, but my life moves on.